14. I was standing outside my own house, barefoot, soaked to the bone, in freezing rain, because of a lie. The door slammed behind me. No jacket, no phone, no money. Just 3 words still echoing in my head. Get out. Don't come back. They thought that night would destroy me. They had no idea. It was the night that created me. My name is Ethan Carter. And this is not a motivational story. This is a true story about betrayal, silence, and becoming something they never expected. If you've ever felt unwanted, if you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, stay with me, because this story might feel like yours. Before that night, I was just a normal kid. I lived in a small town in the Midwest. Nothing fancy, just quiet streets, loud arguments, and closed doors. My mom worked double shifts. My stepfather believed shouting was parenting. I stayed invisible. Good grades. No trouble. No friends that caused problems. I thought if I stayed quiet, I'd be safe. I was wrong. It started with a rumor at school. Someone said I stole money from a teacher's bag. No proof. No witnesses. Just whispers. By lunchtime, people were already looking at me differently. By evening, that rumor had found its way home. And at home, rumors don't ask questions. That night, the storm was brutal. Rain slammed against the windows like it was angry too. My stepfather stood in the living room, holding my backpack. My mother wouldn't look at me. I kept saying, I didn't do it. Please believe me. No one listened. He opened the door. Cold air rushed in, along with rain. And then he said it. Get out. That was it. No discussion. No second chance. Just one lie. And 14 years of existence erased. The door closed. And just like that, I was homeless. I stood there in the rain, shaking, crying, wondering one thing. How does a kid survive a world that already gave up on him? That was only the beginning. The rain didn't stop. Neither did the cold. I stood under a flickering streetlight, my hands shaking so badly, I couldn't even wipe my tears. I kept thinking, maybe they'll open the door. They never did. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just cold. I was alone. 14. I didn't even know what homeless really meant. I thought it was adults. People with stories and choices. Not kids. Still growing. Still hoping. But that night, with nowhere to go, I became one of them. I checked my pockets. No phone. No cash. Just a crumpled bus ticket. That went nowhere. I started walking. Every house I passed had warm lights inside. Families eating dinner. Kids laughing. I wondered if any of them would notice. A 14-year-old boy disappearing into the rain. They didn't. I walked until my legs hurt, until my shoes felt like ice. I found an old bus stop. The bench was wet. The wind cut through my hoodie. Curled up, trying to make myself small. That's when the hunger hit. Not that I skipped lunch hunger. The kind that makes your stomach hurt. And your thoughts slow down. I realized something terrifying. No one was coming to save me. I cried. Not loud. Just enough so the rain could hide it. I kept asking myself, why didn't she believe me? Why was a lie stronger than me? And for the first time, a thought crossed my mind. What if this is my life now? But somewhere between the cold and the fear, something changed. I stopped shaking. Not because it was warmer, but because I understood something. If I stayed broken, the lie would win. And I wasn't ready to let that happen. That night, a stranger would notice me. A moment that could have gone wrong went very right. And it changed everything. But I didn't know that yet. I heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. At that hour. That's not comforting. I pulled my knees closer to my chest, pretending to sleep. My heart was pounding so loud. I was sure they could hear it. I thought, this is it. Something bad is about to happen. A shadow stopped in front of me. A man's voice said, "Hey kid, you okay?" I didn't answer. Every warning my mother ever gave me screamed in my head. Don't talk. Don't trust. Don't look up. But then he said something unexpected. You're freezing. That was it. No threats. No questions. He took off his jacket and placed it next to me. Didn't touch me. Didn't sit too close. Just stepped back. No one had done that for me. All night, I finally looked up. He looked tired. Late 40s maybe. Work boots. Oil stains on his hands. Not scary. Just real. "My name's Mark," he said. "I get off work late. I see you here every night." Every night. I realized then, this wasn't my first invisible moment. I told him everything. The rumor. The door. The rain. My voice kept cracking. But I didn't stop. He listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't doubt. When I finished, he said, "That's not your fault." Those 4 words felt heavier than the storm. He hesitated, then said, "I can't take you home, but there's a shelter 2 blocks from here." He paused. "I can walk you there." I didn't know if I should trust him, but staying where I was worse. So I stood up. As we walked through the dark streets, I kept thinking one thing. Why would a stranger care when my own family didn't? And I had no idea that the shelter door would lead me to the hardest truth of all. The shelter didn't look like safety. It looked tired. Faded walls. Buzzing lights. A door that had been opened for too many broken stories. Mark knocked. A woman behind the desk looked at me. Not surprised. That hurt more than I expected. She asked questions. Name. Age. Why I was there. I waited for sympathy. It never came. Not because she was cruel, but because she'd heard it all before. She handed me a form and said quietly, "You're safe tonight." Tonight. Just tonight. They led me to a room with metal bunk beds. Thin blankets. No pillows. Kids everywhere. Some staring at the ceiling. Some pretending to sleep. No one asked my name. Pain doesn't need introductions. The kid in the bunk next to me whispered, "You knew." I nodded. He said, "I'm Tyler. I've been here 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 14. 3 weeks feels like forever." He didn't ask why I was there. He already knew. Lights out at 10. Wake up at 6. No phones. No freedom. I realized something. This place wasn't broken. It was overwhelmed. Too many kids. Too many lies. Too many adults who chose the easy story instead of the true one. And suddenly, my anger found a direction. Lying there in the dark, I made myself a promise. I wouldn't let this be my ending. I would survive this place. I would outgrow this lie. And one day, they would hear my name again. Not as a rumor, but as something real. The next morning, someone would walk into that shelter. Someone from my past. And they weren't there to apologize. I recognized the footsteps. Before I saw the face, my chest tightened. It was my mother, standing at the shelter entrance, holding her purse like a shield. She looked smaller, older, and suddenly, I wasn't ready. She didn't hug me, didn't apologize. She just stared, like she was afraid I might disappear. The staff gave us a small room, a table, 2 chairs, no comfort, just truth waiting to be spoken. They suspended the boy who started the rumor. She said. They checked the cameras. She swallowed. They know it wasn't you. I waited for the words I needed. They didn't come. She never said, "I'm sorry." She never said, "I should have believed you." Instead she said, "Your stepfather thinks it's better if you stay here for now." There it was. The lie was gone, but so was my home. Something inside me broke and healed at the same time. I looked at her and said, "I didn't do anything wrong." My voice didn't shake. "I'm not the one who should be ashamed." She started crying, but I didn't stop. I stood up, not because I was being kicked out, but because I was choosing myself. As I walked back into the shelter hallway, I realized something powerful. They no longer controlled my future. That choice changed everything, because the next few years would turn a broken kid into someone no one expected. And my real comeback was just beginning. Years passed. Not easily, not quietly, but they passed. I moved through foster homes, through nights where hunger returned, and mornings where hope barely showed up. But I kept one promise. I didn't let the lie decide who I would become. I studied when others slept. I worked when others quit. Teachers noticed. Mentors stepped in. Not because I begged, but because I showed up. Every single day. Pain became discipline. Fear became focus. And slowly, my name started to mean something again. 22. I stood on a stage. In a graduation gown. No family in the crowd. But I wasn't empty. I had built myself. From the ground up. That night in the rain. Didn't destroy me. It introduced me to who I really was. I drove past that old house once. Lights still on. Curtains closed. I didn't stop. Not because I was angry, but because I had finally learned. Closure doesn't come from going back. Comes from moving forward. Without needing permission. If you're listening to this, and you've been blamed, abandoned, or silenced by a lie, hear me clearly. What happened to you is not who you are. Being thrown out doesn't mean you're finished. Sometimes, it means you're being redirected. If this story touched you, or reminded you of your own, you're not alone here. Subscribe to this channel for real stories of survival, strength, and unexpected comebacks. And if you feel ready, share your story in the comments. Someone out there might need it more than you know. I was thrown out at 14 because of a rumor. They never expected what I'd become.